Greetings, cartoon enthusiasts! Appreciating your unwavering support and interest, we have a special treat for you today. Your passion for all things animated has propelled us to delve into the depths of cartoon history to answer those burning questions that have been tickling your curiosity. Today we're going to unravel some of the greatest TV cartoon mysteries of all time. It's time to reignite those childhood memories and traverse the vibrant world of cartoons. So, pour a bowl of cereal and get planted like a couch potato as we embark on this nostalgic journey. One question that often comes up is, were the 90s the golden era of cartoons? Now let's dive into the rabbit hole of nostalgia and take a trip back to the 90s. An era where the term Saturday morning cartoons wasn't just a phrase, it was an event. A weekly ritual, if you may. Those were the days when we'd spring out of our beds, bowl of cereal in hand, eyes glued to the television screen, eagerly awaiting the arrival of our animated friends. The 90s were a time of experimentation and innovation, with creators pushing boundaries and exploring new themes. This was the era that gave us iconic shows like The Simpsons. Though they technically were born in the 80s, they really surged in popularity in the 90s. Becoming afternoon reruns found them an even larger audience. They represented a satirical depiction of a middle-class American family. The charm of The Simpsons lay in its humor, its characters, and its uncanny ability to reflect the absurdities of real life. So popular they are even airing brand new episodes still decades later. Then there was King of the Hill, a show that subtly satirized conservatism and small-town eccentricities. It was a rare gem that managed to be both profoundly ordinary and extraordinarily profound at the same time. Daria, with its biting wit and deadpan humor, was a breath of fresh air. It was a show that captured the essence of teenage angst and apathy and became a voice for the misunderstood, the outcasts, and the introverts. The 90s also marked the rise of two entertainment giants, Nickelodeon and Disney. Nickelodeon introduced us to a slew of unique and memorable characters, from the eccentric residents of Bikini Bottom in SpongeBob SquarePants to the adventurous toddlers of Rugrats. These shows were not just entertaining, they were relatable, often dealing with the trials and tribulations of growing up. Disney, on the other hand, reinvented the animated film genre with a string of box office hits. Who can forget the timeless classics like The Lion King, Aladdin, or Beauty and the Beast? These movies were not just films, they were experiences. They taught us about love, friendship, courage, and the importance of being true to oneself. So, why do we consider the 90s as the golden age of cartoons? Well, it was a time when cartoons were not just seen as children's entertainment, but as a form of art. The storytelling was innovative, the characters were complex, and the themes were often mature. The 90s saw cartoons transcending the boundaries of age, appealing not just to kids but to adults as well. In a way, the 90s were a renaissance period for cartoons. It was an era that dared to dream, dared to be different. It was a time when cartoons were not just about slapstick humor or fantastical adventures. They were about life itself, its joys, its sorrows, its complexities. The 90s certainly left an indelible mark on the world of cartoons, didn't it? It was a time when cartoons grew up with us, and in many ways helped shape us into who we are today. Now, let's rewind a bit and delve into the cartoon history from the 1960s to 1980s. Stepping into the time machine, we find ourselves in the golden age of Saturday morning cartoons. The 1960s to 1980s was a time when the television set became a staple in every household. With this came cartoons that would shape a generation of viewers, and the Saturday morning ritual of watching these animated shows was born. During this era, we saw the emergence of classics, like Alvin and the Chipmunks. These mischievous singing rodents were not only a hit on the small screen, but they also made their mark in the music world with their high-pitched, catchy tunes. The charm of these characters has been so timeless that they've continued to entertain audiences in various forms even today. Then there was G.I. Joe, a series that brought action and adventure to the living room. This cartoon was a masterstroke, as it not only entertained kids with its thrilling plot lines, but also cleverly marketed a line of action figures. This tie-in was so successful that it became a standard model for many cartoons that followed. The 80s saw the rise of female-led cartoons, with Jem and the Holograms leading the charge. This series about a music company owner who moonlighted as a rock star by night was a hit among girls. It broke the mold, proving that cartoons weren't just for boys, and spawned a successful line of dolls and merchandise. The same decade also witnessed the rise of two iconic characters, He-Man and She-Ra. The popularity of the He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and She-Ra, the Princess of Power series skyrocketed, and their action figures became a sensation in the toy industry. The influence they had on pop culture and the toy industry was unprecedented, introducing kids to a world of fantasy and action. Another notable mention from this era is Punky Brewster. This was a unique case where a live-action show was adapted into a cartoon, capturing the hearts of kids with its heartwarming stories and lovable characters. Also, the Muppet Babies found success being modeled after their hit primetime puppet show, The Muppets Tonight. This cartoon showed that animation could tackle serious issues with sensitivity and humor, making it a cherished memory for many. And who could forget the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? This series was a cultural phenomenon, with its blend of martial arts, action, humor, and pizza. The action figure tie-in was a massive hit, with kids everywhere yearning to own their favorite turtle. The of this series even led to several successful reboots and a string of movies. Looking back, the cartoons from the 1960s to the 1980s were more than just a means to keep kids entertained. They were cultural touchstones, shaping the tastes and expectations of a whole generation of viewers. They laid the groundwork for the cartoons that would follow, setting high standards for storytelling, humor, and creativity. The action figure tie-ins were not just a marketing strategy, but they allowed kids to engage with these cartoons in a tangible way. They could recreate their favorite scenes or imagine entirely new adventures for their beloved characters, adding a whole new dimension to the viewing experience. The 60s to the 80s, an era that truly shaped the future of cartoons. But here's a question. Why have Saturday morning cartoons disappeared? The rise of Saturday morning cartoons was a cultural phenomenon that resonates with generations. It all began in the 60s, when network executives discovered the untapped potential of the Saturday morning slot. They started filling it with animated content that was both entertaining and, in many cases, educational. This ignited a golden era of animation, with characters and stories that continue to be loved and remembered today. By the 70s and 80s, Saturday cartoons were a staple of American culture. Characters like Alvin and the Chipmunks, G.I. Joe, and Jem and the Holograms became household names, captivating the hearts and minds of children across the nation. Then came the 90s, which saw the zenith of Saturday morning cartoons. The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Daria. These were not just cartoons, but cultural icons. Nickelodeon and Disney were at the forefront, pushing the boundaries of animation and storytelling. However, as the new millennium dawned, the trajectory of animation began to shift. Adult Swim, a late-night programming block on Cartoon Network, began to rise in popularity. Shows like Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, and Archer achieved cult status, attracting adult audiences with their edgy humor and mature themes. These animations played a pivotal role in redefining the genre, drawing in an older demographic and thus shifting the focus from Saturday morning slots. Meanwhile, the advent of cable television and the internet provided viewers with a multitude of choices, diluting the audience for Saturday morning cartoons. Children could now watch their favorite shows at their convenience, thanks to channels like Cartoon Network and platforms like Netflix. Regulatory shifts such as the Children's Television Act of 1990 also played a part. This act mandated networks to air educational programming, inadvertently leading to a decline in purely entertaining cartoons. The economics of creating animated content changed as well. High-quality computer-generated animation was costly, and networks found live-action shows or reality TV to be more profitable. So as we ventured into the 2010s, Saturday morning cartoons faded into nostalgia. But their legacy lives on, in the characters we still love, the stories we still tell, and the memories we cherish. The fall of Saturday morning cartoons, a poignant chapter in the book of animation. Now, with the toys from these eras making a comeback, should the cartoons too? It's a question that's been bouncing around in the nostalgic corners of our minds, isn't it? The 80s and 90s were an era of creative genius in the realm of animation. We saw characters come to life that were not just entertaining but also relatable and often thought-provoking. Take, for instance, the daring adventures of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the heartwarming tales of the Chipmunks. These shows were more than just Saturday morning pastimes. They were cultural touchstones. They shaped our perceptions, our values, and in some ways our very identities. So wouldn't it be wonderful to see them return to our screens, rebooted for a new generation to enjoy? But let's hit the pause button for a moment. Because as much as we'd love to relive those golden days, we need to consider what a reboot really entails. It's not just about repackaging the old, it's about reimagining it. It's about capturing the essence of the original while making it relevant for today. And that's a tall order. Then again, we've seen successful reboots, haven't we? Shows that have managed to retain their charm while adapting to the tastes and sensibilities of a new audience. So who's to say it can't be done again? Perhaps with the right mix of creativity and respect for the original, we could see our beloved cartoons return in a form that's both fresh and familiar. So what do you think? Could a reboot do justice to the classics? Or should we let sleeping dogs lie, cherishing the original versions in our hearts and our memory banks? As we conclude this journey, we'd love to hear your views, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And remember, if you were a child of the 80s or 90s, you've probably been a child at heart forever. Remember, be kind, rewind.